Welcome to Wildly Successful. I am your host, Petra Colson, a fellow business owner, a mum, and someone who has far too many ideas for my own good. On this podcast, we are diving deep into what it takes to build a business you truly love. One that brings not only financial success, but also the freedom to live a life that makes you genuinely happy. Join me as we explore topics such as business strategy, marketing, mindset, and everything between. You can expect actionable advice and real conversations with incredible business owners that will motivate you to take your business to the next level. So, if you're committed to building your wildly successful business, you're in the right place. Hello, and welcome back. Before we dive in, I just wanted to say a massive thank you. The response to last week's episode was just so beautiful. I have loved reading your comments, hearing your thoughts, and just being in conversation with you, because honestly, that is what this podcast is all about. Today, we are going to talk about what you can and what you can't control as a founder. And I wanted to share a bit of a personal experience with this. Over the last 12 months, I have been working towards a specific health goal. You know, the normal, I want to lose X kilos in so long. So I did what I've always done when I wanted results in the past. I followed a plan, I ate well, I trained consistently, I stayed disciplined, I did everything that has worked for me in the past. But this time, it did not work. The numbers didn't move, my clothes didn't feel any different, and if I'm being honest, it really sort of rattled and confused me because I felt like I was doing everything right. I feel like I was ticking all the boxes, and still the outcome wasn't what I had expected. And it just left me feeling frustrated and a bit stuck. And then it sort of hit me, just because I am following the same input or actions doesn't necessarily mean that I will get the same output or result, because my body has changed, my stress levels are different, my hormones are different, my sleep, my capacity, all of this has shifted. So instead of doing what I've always done, I realized that I need a new approach, not necessarily a new goal. I just need a new way to get to where I want to be. And that right there reminded me of content and of the many conversations that I have been having with clients over the years. I find that we often set goals for our content and then we feel really frustrated or confused when we don't get to the exact goal we wanted in the time frame that we wanted. It's so easy to get stuck fixating on the wrong things. We focus on the outcome, the result, the part that we can't actually fully control. And I can hear the voices in my head going, but I'm doing all the things. Why am I not getting to where I want to be? And I think it's as easy as, if we're not getting to the outcome we want in the time frame that we want, we are not taking the actions needed. I'm going to say that again. If you're not getting to the outcome you want, you're not taking the actions needed to get there. And I'm not saying that you're not doing anything, because most of us are, but the lack of result is your guide telling you that whatever you're doing is not the actions needed to get to where you want to go in that time frame. Maybe your approach is right, but it needs more time. And if you want results faster, then you need to shift your approach. Often our content goals sound something like, I want 10K followers, or I want to go viral, or I want 50 people to sign up to my email list, or I want 100 podcast downloads this week. And all those goals are fine. There's nothing wrong with having something to aim for. But the question is, are we focusing too much on the numbers that we can't actually control? So let me explain this. in business, we have two things. We have the input, the actions that we take, and we have the output, which is the result that we get. And often we obsess over the outputs, this being the followers, the reach, the likes, the leads, the sales, and so on. But maybe we should stop ourselves and ask, have I really done the input required to make the outcome possible? And if you have and it's still not working, are you willing to change your approach? Because just like my health, what worked before may not work now because platforms change, trends change. What landed with your audience 6 months ago might not land now. But instead of tweaking your strategy, I find that most people just give up entirely. They stop posting, they focus on the next shiny thing, or they say it's just not working for me or for my industry. I have started to look at this as a feedback loop instead. So the content that I create, which is the input that I can control, I then measure the result, the output, which is the result of the content that I've put out. The output tells me a story. It tells me what worked and what didn't. I use that feedback to then make decisions for all the content that I'm making moving forward. I learn to spot trends and I continue to tweak and stay proactive until I find out what really works, what lands with my audience. And I will most likely have to go through this again where I continue to work on the content, where we continue to tweak, we continue to test and refine. And I think the dangerous part with this is, as founders, obsessing too much over that goal without being willing to change the input, or focusing on the goal but not tracking the data and not making educated decisions that when things are not working, not being willing to test something new until things start to work. Because reality is you cannot control how many people follow or unfollow you. You can't control what goes viral. You can't control who clicks, who buys, who shares. You can make changes on your input that might impact these things, but you can't control if these people will hit the follow button in the end. You can only control the part that you do. So, instead of focusing on what we can't control, let's look at what we can control, and that is your strategy. That is how often you post. That's the quality of your content, your messaging, the hooks that you're using, your call to actions, the consistency, how well you track and learn from what's working. Those are the inputs. That's the work. And if you commit to doing those things and commit to adjusting when it's not landing, the outcome will come, but maybe not in your original timeline. Maybe it's not exactly the way you had imagined it, but it will come. I was listening to another podcast this morning by Brittany Saunders, and she talks about content or social media in this instance being like a lottery where you buy a ticket or put out a piece of content and you might win or you might lose. But the only way of winning is being part of the game, and it's to buy the lottery ticket in the first place. And that means putting out your content. So I just thought it was such a good reminder of just keep putting things out, keep being consistent, keep working on what's landing, your messaging, your hooks. Use the data that you are getting as your guide. Use it to make better decisions in the future. If you notice that people are not following you, but you are reaching quite a lot of people, then think about, okay, what is it that turns them from a view to a follow? Or is it that you're not moving your followers into sales calls? Then what is it we have to do to turn the followers and make it really clear for them what the next step is? So this is where each piece of the outcome becomes a guidebook in terms of what we want to try for the future. And just like my health goals, just because things are not going the way I wanted, as quickly as I wanted, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to try something different. I just spoke to someone who in the past few months has grown their YouTube following from under 10K to over 65K followers. And that was because their willingness to keep putting out content, trialing what works, seeing what their audience really wanted. When they realized what actually took off, they grew really, really fast. So let's go back to, if you are a founder and you have a specific goal, say you want to hit 10K followers for your business, instead of just writing, I want to hit 10K followers by the end of the year, ask yourself, what actions do I think I need to take to grow to 10K followers? Then actually do that, and then track what is working, track what's not working, and keep refining. Stop obsessing over the 10K followers. Just follow the actions that you think you need to do in order to get there. Start getting curious about the actions you can take or not take, because the only way you don't get there is if you stop. And that's the work. That is what wildly successful really look like. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Until next time, have a beautiful week. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.